I'm very interested in seeing this film. I'm imagining so many things. Even though they live in a village, Herzog would film the surroundings in such a way that the houses and trees seem like bars. Just as the Chaplin sisters felt. Encroaching nature. Perhaps we'll see tall weeds, twisted trees, nature not as a refuge but as a silent and hostile witness to their isolation. Architecture of paranoia. Shots where the Mara sisters are always framed by narrow doors, dirty windows, dark hallways, accentuating the feeling of being trapped. Because Herzog evokes things like that, perhaps there will be many frontal shots, where they appear small in the same space, moving simultaneously, revealing that they are a single, obsessive mind. Filled with a certain terror. Because the timeless coats and scarves suggest a disconnection from modernity. They seem like 19th-century peasant women lost in a contemporary village. Which reinforces their alienation. In Herzog's films, an animal isn't a pet, it's a mirror of the soul. I'd like to see one that connects with them. A donkey, a horse, a chicken, a dog. That's what I'd like. What made Frida and Greta famous in the 70s and 80s was that they spoke at the same time, said the same words, with the same tone and rhythm, walked the same way, as if reflecting each other. It's said that as children they created such a private, closed world that they never interacted with the outside world separately. The drama that made them famous was their obsession with a truck driver. They stalked him, harassed him, yelled things at him, and staked out his house. Perhaps even the townspeople were fed up. They were the first in the UK to go to jail for stalking. And although they tried to separate them into individual cells, they only succeeded in triggering a psychotic break. How would they film that part if they include it? I get emotional. The degree of dependence was extreme. It is said that the mother encouraged them to become one. Herzog is obsessed with characters who defy the logic of civilization. So, for him, the Chaplin sisters aren't crazy, but rather another example of what human nature does. Although there's a scientific diagnosis for these kinds of cases, perhaps he wants to show an entity inhabiting two bodies. Because the Chaplin sisters' synchronicity challenges our notion of an individual soul. If you observe it outside that framework, it would seem paranormal. In other words, it's captivating. So, seeing the Mara sisters speak the same things in unison is a challenge that only someone like Herzog would dare to explore. Furthermore, casting Rooney and Kate is a brilliant decision because you already have the public eye, and studios love that. Because even though they don't look like twins, they are sisters. They share a similar bone structure and have natural chemistry. Rooney usually plays intriguing, ethereal characters, while Kate has a more grounded, brusque presence. Transforming them into one person is a great challenge. But let's go further. Herzog isn't filming a movie about bullying or about mental health. I'd like to think he filmed a kind of documentary about an entity inhabiting two bodies. Elevating a curious crime story to a Greek tragedy of codependency. His films leave images in your head that resonate even days or months later. He takes you into the Chaplin twins' everyday life and explains why their environment is beautiful and terrifying at the same time. He's not interested in normal people. He's interested in delirium, hysteria, hermits, the different. In this case, the twins lack the most important thing, individuality. Herzog despises boredom. In his documentaries, he sometimes asks people to act or invents things. So, with the Chaplin twins, I don't expect a medical report. I have another possible scene, a wide shot, one of them upstairs, the other in the kitchen. Suddenly, they both stop, turn their heads toward the door, and stand up at the same time. That requires an acting connection of another level, beyond simply memorizing a script. And the challenge is to show that this synchronicity is both a refuge and a prison. Herzog knows how to evoke suffocation and loneliness. We know that Rooney is the muse of the close-up, other directors have exploited her gaze. However, I want to believe that Herzog wouldn't overuse that, but rather that the dynamic would be more perverse. I don't think he wants one actress supporting another. The astonishment would come from discovering who initiated a movement. Kate has a more tense and physical energy. Perhaps Kate would be the anchor and Rooney the spirit. I would love to be left wondering, watching them, well, who's the original? Who's the one who starts the feeling? The Chaplin twins are perfect material for a director who's slowly winding down his craft. A minimalist and obsessive story. Here, he doesn't need to move a ship on a mountain with 100 men. The risk is that the film might feel cold and analytical. Because sometimes genius directors fall so in love with intellect and technique that they forget to move the audience. And I hate when that happens because I like to feel, not just focus on technicalities. It could just remain a technical curiosity. They say Herzog prefers his actors not to rehearse. If he wants the synchronization between them to seem like a biological instinct, what did they do to achieve it? They're both nerds. Hopefully, they'll tell us about the process of preparing their characters. Perhaps they went to live together for weeks or months, without mirrors, to observe themselves constantly. Obviously, that's where the shared clothing exercise began. Since the goal was to lose the sense of personal ownership, did they have a voice coach and a physical coach? I imagine extreme things. I suppose the trick to speaking in sync isn't hearing each other, but feeling the other person's vibration. So they probably did breathing exercises. In my madness, I imagine Rooney and Kate sitting back to back for hours just to synchronize their heartbeats and breathing, the goal, to be one lung. I also imagine them practicing simple dialogues. Like a grocery list, with a metronome at different speeds until the rhythm of their syllables was mathematically identical. Perhaps they also did a basic psychology exercise called the shadow, where they obviously pretend to be each other's shadow. If Rooney goes to the bathroom, Kate follows, imitating her every movement. If Kate touches her nose, Rooney does too. I imagine hours and days of that, and then switching places because it shouldn't be noticeable that one is following the other. So many exercises while Rooney's youngest daughter is a crying, hungry baby. I'd like to think Herzog forbade the use of their names on set, to torture them with total depersonalization. If Rooney cries, a tear must flow from Kate's eye at the same time. God, I'd love to see that. I'm exaggerating. I want to be amazed, to stop and observe. And maybe I'm expecting too much. When I see the film, I'll tell you if I liked it or not.